Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Adventures in Angular. I'm Aaron Frost, the host. I work with Hero Devs and NgConf. And today on the panel, we have Shai Reznik. Shai, intro yourself.
Hello, I'm Shai Reznik. I run testangular.com and highres.io. Thank you very much.
And we have Joe Eames. Go ahead,
hey, everybody.
Joe.
Joe Eames from Thinkster.io.
And notably missing is one of the world's newest moms, Alyssa Nykel.
Oh my God!
By the time this comes out, she'll be a mom. It's any time this week, though, so she's
what
just going to be gone.
That we don't know?
No, I don't know anything, but that's why she's not here. She's resting up for mom time. Anyway, so she's going to be out for a few episodes, but everyone follow her on Twitter and wish her good luck as a new mom. I'm excited for her. And then as our guest, we have Raul Jimenez. We're going to have Raul go ahead and introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hi, man. Hi, people. And I'm Raul Jimenez. I'm the CEO of a small company called Byte Default, and we work from Barcelona for all the world, and we do a lot of Angular.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give you full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io.
What's the name of your company?
Byte Default. It's a horrible name. Yeah.
Byte Defaults.
Yeah, Byte.
What was the name of your old company?
I don't have an old company.
No, you did. You had a company with you and another guy. You had two developers. What was the name of your company?
That wasn't a company. Actually, that was just a blog, and it was two fucking developers.
Yeah, two fucking developers.
Hey, code of conduct.
Yeah, code of conduct.
It's the name of a company. Calm down.
Yeah.
You telling me? You're the...
Don't judge his company. You're judging his company now. All right.
No. You're the American. Okay.
Shai Reznik, everybody. Welcome to the show. All right. We invited Raul, the soothing tones of Raul, to the show today because Raul has some stuff he wants to talk about. What are we talking about today, Raul?
Well, I think that I found that this is a very interesting topic, which is the functional programming, Angular, and NgRx.
Okay. So a lot of people are like, dude, so many keywords, I don't even know. What does the keyword functional programming mean? Okay,
functional programming. This is like programming paradigm or
functional programming.
It's like when you use the function, no?
Yeah, it's like object-oriented programming, but you are not using objects mostly all the time. You are composing functions instead of objects. So that's.
I think it's when you are dealing with functions that like produce no side effects, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Yeah, but that's very true.
What's the difference between functional programming and pure functional programming?
Pure functional programming, probably, I don't know. I'm going to just guess that pure functional programming doesn't have, as Shai said, side effects, or you are not going to attach anything to global objects or whatever.
So is there like dirty functional programming?
Maybe.
Don't go there. It's a trap.
Yeah. I know it is, but I'm just
Impure functional programming,
Yeah,
tainted functional programming.
Oh man.
Oh.
I'm out. Eject.
People-
I just hit the eject button.
The eject.
The eject button.
Oh,
We just saw it.
no.
We went right out. It was James Bond.
Stop, you two. You have a
Here
conference
goes.
to run. You have a conference to run.
That's
There he
the eject
goes.
air horn.
Okay, let's stick with functional programming. So functional
Yeah.
programming, can you tell us what's the problem that it's trying to solve?
Well, I think that what it's trying to solve, it's usually problems with extending classes and sometimes to avoid to have states in your objects that can be, maybe contaminated by other states or that kind of stuff. So it's important is that your functions receive some params and return some values, and that's it.
So they're not producing any side effects. But let's take a real example from Angular. Like I have a component, okay?
Okay.
So and I have a service, let's say, like a product component and a product service, and now we need to display products on the page. And
Okay.
where is the functional programming goes like playing in that scenario?
In that scenario, probably it's going to play. If you want to display a list of products, probably you should use something like NgRx or this other library. I don't remember the name.
What NoRx? Yes.
And I don't remember the name actually. I will find it. I will find it later. No. It's very similar to NgRx, but it uses decorators and so on.
NgXS.
That one. So you probably will use one of those, and what you are going to do is to use this NgRx, this Redux pattern, where you are not going to call the service directly, but you are going to call an action that is going to call the service, and you are going to receive an action with the response from the service. In the middle of that process, that it's going to be stored in a thing called store, very appropriate name. The thing is that you cannot modify that store directly. You have to use always all the time actions. So that's to prevent those side effects that you mean, that you said before. That's pretty much the thing.
Here's my favorite question about side effects. Side effects are how you actually make a program do something. So why do I worry about side effects?
Boom!
Without side effects, nothing happens. Literally nothing happens without a side effect.
So, like, let's say you have a function, Jose, okay? And
that's my name. Don't wear it out.
Jose. Let's say you have a function and you pass a person object into the function, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want the function to mutate the person.
Maybe I do.
Well, that's not functional. That would be a mutation.
That's not
What if
functional.
the function?
Why, Joe? What Jose is asking is why wouldn't I want it to be?
Yeah.
muted?
So here's my scenario. I got a function. It's the radioactive spider function. I pass in the Peter Parker person, right? Obviously, I want the function to mutate the person, right? That just makes sense. But you're saying that with functional programming, I don't want that to happen. So with functional programming, there's no superheroes, right? We don't.
Okay.
Disney doesn't make any money.
That's not true. You can use effects and that kind of stuff to mutate the results that you're getting from the server. If that's what you want. If that's what you want.
But let's talk about why not. Like, what is the problem? That's the first question. What is the problem that doing
what's the problem?
this way solve? Like
I'm gonna let Raul. He's the expert.
In my opinion, I'm not the expert. I'm just using it a lot at my work. That's it. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on anything in my life, I think. Okay, so what it's trying to solve is that, when your applications are growing a lot, it usually happens that a lot of interactions between your data is happening there. So if you're using this one direction pattern, you can know every time that someone or some function or some component or some view has modified that store. So that's the point of this thing, that you can
how would you know that?
Every change.
How would you know that?
Well, we use Redux tools, the dev tools for Redux, and every time that you can see this log with all the actions that you have executed. So every time that you do a call to the server, and every time that you modify your store, or you add an item to that store, or you remove some things from the store, you can know that, because you have on the dev tools, you have all the log. So,
and by the way, I believe that Mobix, which is a different implementation of state management, has the same thing, but they use, I think, setters and getters. Now they use proxies, I think, to achieve the same thing. So you get a log of all the changes to a certain thing, and without writing like a special action or making it functional per se. You can decorate something as an action and then prevent people from using it in other like levels of the program. But okay, so you get like the logability, let's say, the logging ability to know when you do this in that way.
Shai, can you also get lovability in there, or is that not an option?
No, lovability is not related to state management. It's far away from
far away.
management pattern you will meet.
We'll never.
But it's not
hateability is in there.
Hateability is in there, yeah. But
that's true with today's.
But okay, so let's say you have something that mutate this is how people worked for years, where they had like, I don't know, services or some cache or something that hold like the person, and then something would change it and it will render, and wherever we got to a place where it doesn't make sense, or, something happens and I don't know like what happens, and, the problems that you are describing. Is it happening, like from your experience, you moved to NgRx for a reason. So what led you to move to that?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, first of all, we started in this project like in Angular Alpha. So NgRx didn't exist at all.
Interesting.
That's the first thing. So after working in the project for like 1 year or so, NgRx looked stable, pretty stable, and we decided to give it a try.
Why?
Because, functional programming was getting a lot of traction. One of my coworkers, he's very into Elm too. And he kind of convinced me, hey, we should give it a try to this because we have these benefits, these things. And I said, okay, let's give it a try.
Yeah, wait, zoom in. What is this benefit and this benefit and this benefit?
Well, he explained me all these, the problems about using object-oriented programming instead of functional programming, and the benefits with, for example, using Redux dev tools and all that stuff.
By the way, did you suffer from anything before you moved to NgRx? Like, have you experienced any pain or hateability with the old way, or let's say the older way of how you did it?
Not necessarily, but afterwards, we think that it was the right choice because, for example, we did some UI refactors. Like, we basically redone the whole UI. So we throw all the HTML and SAS files, keep some components, but we do it completely rewrite of the UI. But because we used NgRx, we were able to reuse a lot of code, like all the services, all the reducers, the effects, the models. Basically, we were able to reuse a lot of that, which You can do that also if you are not using NgRx. That's true, but maybe it's going to be more difficult if you are not.
If you are mixing concerns, if you put a lot of logic in the components,
yeah. And sometimes you can mess up things easily if you are not using patterns. That's
Shai. I object. I feel like you're leading the witness.
No, I'm
if you
asking
want him to say something. Just tell him what to say.
He's taking notes. He's taking notes for his work. He's taking notes.
Shai.
Say I love
tell
you,
him
Shai.
What to say.
I love you, Shai. Say I love you, Shai, Raul. But
I love you, Shai, and you know. Te quiero, Shai.
Sí.
It's a parrot noise, bro. We're gonna parrot for Shai.
But no, it's okay. I mean, I like the questions. I like to be interrogated.
No, I think Shai's question is good. I think a lot of us don't know what a Redux is. We don't know where it came from. We don't know why we need it, but we know that we keep hearing about it, so we just adopt it. We're like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it isn't, but I got to adopt it. And so I think that's why Shai's asking, like, hey, what was the pain that pushed you there? Why
Redux
did you?
Is the new iPhone.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the new iPhone.
It says it in the
Brad Pitt has it. I must have it as well.
But
I don't know what Redux is, but I stood in line for 4 days to get one.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's funny you say that, but that's how I feel. Like, I had no idea what it was, but people were like, "Oi, do you have state in your app?" I'm like, "Obviously, I have state in my app."
What the hell are you talking with?
I was a pirate. I was talking to a pirate.
Who does Angular?
It was a pirate. It was an Angular pirate.
Yeah, they're like,
them Redux.
Does you have some Redux in your app? Do you got some state? And I'm like, I might have a state, but no, I feel like I got duped a little bit, and by the time I realized what it is, I realized, oh, this is overkill for what I need. I needed a better solution for this, but what I got was I got the doomsday solution that I only need if I have like a highly real-time concurrent data-driven app, which most of our apps aren't, and even in the apps that are, 90% of the data in that app isn't. And so, I don't know. I understand. That's a question.
No, that's a good point, Frosty, because for that example, let's say like a high, a lot of events, push notifications and stuff like that, maybe in that complexity level, when you have mutable data that keeps changing a lot, you might have a hard time to keep track of where bugs that come from mutation happen, and then it makes sense to keep it mutable.
Well, I just want to point out something. I'm actually building the next Facebook, so I obviously need it, right? I'm actually doing that. I'm building whatever is going to be replace Facebook. Right? I'm pretty sure. I mean, everybody in my company says we're building the next Facebook. My boss says we're building the next Facebook. So we need to be as performant as Facebook, right?
You have a boss, Joe.
Like,
come on, Joe.
I'm channeling my inner employee.
Yes, your spirit animal.
Yeah. He's Dilbert. My spirit animal is Dilbert.
Okay, so let's get back to NgRx and functional NgRx. So you're doing NgRx, which is divided into, instead of mutating something, you raise an action, you emit an action or something like that, and which is like an event, and like you have the reducer, which handles the state, right? Mutation.
I have the same question. So I understand Redux, actions, side effects, reducers, selectors, right?
Okay.
How is functional programming with NgRx different than programming with NgRx? Like, what's the difference between functional NgRx and non-functional NgRx? Because I know NgRx the way I learned it. Like, what makes your NgRx functional? Is what I guess I'm asking.
Well, I will say
functional
that
programming NgRx.
Yeah, I will say that NgRx is functional by default.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you are doing NgRx, you are doing functional programming.
So the reducers themselves are return an immutable data, like not the actual data they receive, but a new copy of the data. And that makes them functional because they don't produce any side effect. They don't change maybe the state that they got, right? This is like
if you are doing properly, yeah.
So the reducer is what's known as a pure function. If you give it the same input, it will put out the same output every single time. That's supposed to be what your reducer does. If you have a reducer that, given the same input, would ever output a different output, then you're not necessarily dealing with a pure function as your reducer, which is what they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about functional programming with NgRx, are we talking about the reducer or are we talking about like the selectors? Because really that's where these two paradigms are going to come in. Are going to be in the reducer or the selector. It's not necessarily going to be in the side effect or the action. So what does functional programming in NgRx mean?
Who's using NgRx here?
When I get forced to, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm in Gen. Okay.
Who like it?
That was a sincere comment. I use it when I'm forced to. I'm being honest.
Okay. And you like it?
Oh, no.
You hate it.
Yeah. I mean, I love my friends that build it, so I won't say what I really think. I just think I'll say it's a bit over architected for most of what I do.
But I think we talked about it like 2 episodes ago. They also say that you might not need NgRx in everything that you do. You have use cases for that, and that's cool. That's okay. That's why I asked, and I asked from a sincere place, the use case that Raul went through, why he needed or they needed to use it, because this is what I want to know myself when I will encounter a use case like that. I really want to know, because if I will encounter this use case, I want to know if I should implement it or not. What is your experience? If it was helpful? I'm not asking it to troll. I'm asking from a sincere place.
Okay. Thank you, Shai. I know that you are not a troll all the time.
All the time, yeah.
All the time. I don't know if when we choose at that moment, when we chose on the NgRx as our, state management thing, I don't know if it was a good decision or if it was a very good, solution for our problem, because in most cases of our app, we are just displaying lists and that kind of things, which is like the 99% of the apps are doing. But we have a particular case where we have to generate forms dynamically and store that data and all that stuff. We are using NgRx for all that. The app, it's pretty complex to explain all what we do, but I do really know, as I said before, that it was very good because when we did this, this refactor, it was so easy to do that refactor.
Okay, let me ask you I don't know, backward question. Like, if I won't do NgRx in a functional way, what will be the danger in that? Like, what am I missing? What's the pain there?
It is true, and I agree with Aaron that it is not maybe what you should use for everything. For every single app that you're going to do, you should not probably use NgRx for everything. I really think that if your app is pretty big and you expect that your app is going to grow a lot, you are going to get more benefits in a long time. Why? I do think that because when your app is growing and you have a lot of screens and those screens are growing and you have, for example, now you have this upload component where you can do multiple uploads and then you can move along your app and you can still see your uploads there and all that and that kind of stuff. Okay, you are going to be able to reuse a lot of code across all the screens, and it's going to be very easy to use the same services and all that stuff across all those views when your app is growing and growing. And this is something that I've noticed. As I say, we've been working in this project since Angular Alpha, and we started using NgRx. I think that when version 2 was released. So we've been using NgRx for a long, long time. I will say almost 2 years maybe. And this is something that we really noticed, that it helped us to, right now, to create new screens for us, it's very, very fast. A big part of that is because we are using NgRx, I think.
Okay, sorry to cut you there. Just focusing again, reiterating my question. It was not about using NgRx. Let's say I'm using NgRx already.
Yeah.
But now, like, let's say we said that the functional elements of it was the reducer. Like if I'm making sure I'm returning a copy of the data and not the data I received, will make it like a pure function without side effects. And then this will make it function. What is the danger with not doing it that way? Like if I will return what I received and mutate it, what will happen? What is the danger in there?
Probably what is going to happen is you will have your store is going to have a copy in memory that it's not what you really get. So maybe you're going to see that one of your views is okay and the other's not, or something like that.
Why?
Let me think about it. Okay, so you are telling me that you mutated your store. Actually, that's not possible unless, you do the reducer, you mess up with your reducer. But mostly what it's going to happen, it's probably what I said. You are going to, your data, the data that you receive it from the server or from whatever, it's not going to be the same that you have in your store. So I don't know where you are going to want that, actually.
Hey, are you working on a complex enterprise Angular application? Angular Bootcamp is an intensive 3-day workshop class to learn the basics of Angular through sophisticated techniques for real-world applications. They update the class regularly for the most current Angular, and a lot of the curriculum is also relevant to older versions. Or you can go beyond the 3-day class with help from Oasis Digital, the team behind Angular Bootcamp. They can assist your team or launch your project, including scalability, data flow, state management, service architecture, full stack product design, and a ton more. Or you can contact them for a private class at your location or attend public classes in cities around the US and occasionally in Europe. Online live instructor training is also available at angularbootcamp.com.
Yeah, sometimes getting into the weeds on NgRx stuff is tough because we all have different needs, right? Every single one of our apps is so different, and it's hard to compare. I think that a lot of the disconnect around the conversation of, hey, state, just even that word, anymore that word is so loaded. Like it used to just mean variables that had values, but now it's so loaded what state even stands for. And so I think people come into the word state with a lot of like already established points and assumptions made, and it makes it hard to sometimes see eye to eye on what we're talking about. And so there's a lot of confusion anymore, at least when I'm on the Twitter or when I'm talking to those pirates, that I was talking to, like,
stop talking to pirates.
Well, if they talk to you, it's rude to not talk back. You have to talk.
Yeah, but they don't really like programming.
No, they like things. No, they're programming pirates. So anyway, it makes it hard sometimes. But I am interested in understanding how people can write better functional Rx stuff. And I think that the functional parts of NgRx are Rx itself. Like when I look at, hey, how do I make my NgRx functional? I go, okay, well, in NgRx, there's the reducer, and you also have the effects, which even the NgRx team feels like NgRx effects are completely separate from NgRx, right? Like they want people to use effects even outside of NgRx. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So NgRx effects kind of are outside of NgRx. So, and when you look at an effect, it's really just Rx.
Yeah, it is RxJS.
And so when I look at NgRx, I see wrappers around some Rx stuff. And so I think that the point here being getting good at RxJS and functional Rx and like state mapping and like deriving one state from a previous state is really how you get good at functional programming inside of NgRx or Rx. It's almost unrelated. It's almost a separate conversation to NgRx, and it's more just around RxJS in general, unless you're talking about the reducer function, because the reducer function, that actually is functional, right? Like that is the piece of NgRx that is FP. And so that's kind of how I'm seeing, like, are we talking about the reducer, or are we talking about how we select it back out of the store and mutate it from an array of users that's hard to search through into a map of users that's easy to search through, right? And like stuff like that. So like, and how are we doing that kind of thing? So that's kind of how I see when we're talking about functional programming in Rx or NgRx. I'm really just seeing a lot of conversation about RxJS. Is that true, Raul, or what are you seeing different than what I'm seeing?
No, I agree with you. I think that RxJS is super important. I mean, we are using heavily, obviously, RxJS, especially in the effects, as you said. And also, when we get the success actions, when we do a call and that's the success action, it's return, we do some operations maybe on the view, whatever, and we use a lot of RxJS there too. So yeah, RxJS is definitely super important. If you want to be good, probably with NgRx and functional programming, you have to work a lot with RxJS and be good with that. And it's complex. Until you get it, it's complex.
I remember, my first Angular 2. I think I came in on Angular 3. Or no, sorry, Angular 3 is invisible. Sorry. I think I came in on Angular 4. Sorry, I just stepped in a hornet's nest. My bad, dude. I didn't mean to poke the bear. Sorry. I came in on the imaginary Angular. Sorry. No, I came in on Angular 4. And I kind of just skipped Rx because like the Pluralsight courses that were teaching me and like the Todd models were like, just do 2 promise. And they're like, basically, they're like, just step around it. Like, just get it back to a promise. Yeah. And so, and I'm not blaming them because I think there's a lot of people that still think this today. A lot of data doesn't need to be a stream because it's only coming one time. It's not concurrent. It's not going to update again and again and again. So promises work fine for them. So I think that there was some merit to teaching it that way. But it causes to kind of sidestep Rx because it's pokey, right? Like promises have like 2 callbacks, right? Rx has like 4,000,001 as of this week operators. Like they got a new one. It's now 4,000,001, right, Joe? Joe, am I right? It's up to 4,000,001?
Yes, 4,000,000 and uno.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I think that like there's a reason why everyone was like, hey, just don't do this. Just step around it, right? And Bonnie at Hi-Res was like, don't do it. It's bad. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it. and so, but now I think the community generally is like, all right, about face, let's get serious on this Rx stuff. And even if I only have to learn 3 or 4 of the operators, I at least need to learn it. And so there seems to be a bit more prowess now in Angular 7.
Reluctant prowess.
I think a lot of people's reluctant, like people like me, oh my gosh, like I got over the reluctance because I had it. I identify with that comment a lot, Joe. But now I love it. Like I look at like my favorite technologies I've learned in the last 5 years, and I think Rx is my number 1. Like it is so phenomenal. Like it's so amazing. But I wasn't there when I started. And I wasn't there with Angular either when I started. It took me some time to fall in love with it. And so,
same way you felt about Backbone.
No. Backbone, I never had the honeymoon phase, but I never got to like I like you now. Like I never got there. Backbone was always like, this is just as hard as just jQuery. So why can't I just jQuery?
You never offered, let's just be friends. You never said that.
It's me.
It's me.
Not you. It's me.
You.
Wait, but let's get back to the just to maybe, I don't know, summarize or just trying to figure out what we have learned today. Okay, so
only nothing.
No, I'm trying to maybe take the the points that what is important, because the topic of today is NgRx, like functional NgRx, right? I think that we as a panel did like maybe not so good of a job, maybe interrupting you a lot with questions. And we didn't let you maybe do or say the thing that you wanted to do or say. So I want you to have like, the chance now to maybe talk about what you want to talk, or just to, give us the points, the important points that you want to pass.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have any questions, right? And you are just doing this because you are not more creative.
Yeah, I'm not creative.
Yeah,
so.
Okay.
that's.
No,
I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit of that. I think Shai feels like we pulled it off the rails, and we didn't get to hear your message, and we want to make sure the listeners hear your message.
Yeah.
Am I wrong, Shai?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. Well, couple of things. I think that, as I said, just use functional programming and NgRx, Redux, and all the stuff if you like it. If you don't like it and you don't feel comfortable with that, just don't do it. I think that's the technology. It's just to get the best of it. If you are not getting it, or you are not getting the best of it, just don't do it. Just do whatever you want and you think it's right. That's everything. If you don't like Angular, you can use Vue.js or Backbone or whatever. Or Jquery.
I highly recommend Backbone. Highly recommend it.
Same here.
So that's the thing.
Backbone, back for life. I was on the Vue Redux documents the other day, and they had a statement. They said, this is like glasses. You'll know when you need it. And so if you don't know you need glasses, then you don't need them. Like none of us are like, I don't know if I need glasses. Should I go buy glasses? Like, no. Like I hit 39 this year, and this was the first year I was like, a gentleman needs glasses.
I read the same thing, and I have a problem with that because people are usually afraid that when you will know, it will be too late, So they always try to figure out if I should invest in this technology or framework or whatever, or library, and to study it now before it gets too late, and then I'm in scale and I cannot I cannot change my code because it's too messy and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's a balance, right, Shai? Like you have to balance the FOMO or you don't want to write legacy code, right? I think Redux is unique because it has so much, and I know that the NgRx team, when they hear this, is going to love it. It has so much boilerplate that I think that you do need
especially Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon loves that part, just so everyone knows. Tweet him about it. If everyone wants to tweet Brandon, I'm
going to do him.
Yeah. Hashtag Brandon, or at mention Brandon, and say thanks for the hashtag boilerplate. But no, I think that you need to ask a couple extra questions to make sure it's worth it. Because when it's worth it, it's worth it. But I think there's a lot of the time that it might be over-engineered, right? Like no one wants to strap a lawnmower to the bottom of your Tesla to mow your lawn.
You're a pirate.
Right? Yeah.
Wait, like you can do that?
No, you can, but no one wants to. Joe, back it up.
I'm getting excited now. I know somebody who just bought a Tesla, and I have a lawnmower.
Well, don't do it, Joe. You could do it. No, you could.
I can do it. I could.
There's a time when it's like, okay, guys, the only feasible way to manage this is to put the lawnmower onto the Tesla. Like there's a scenario where someone is going to say that before the world ends. But it's not.
We listen to you.
Yeah, like there's a scenario where that's a viable solution and no one has a smile on their face, right? But there's a lot of scenarios, I would even argue more, where it's okay to put a Boolean somewhere else besides like in the NgRx store. And that's all we're saying. And the glasses, despite Shai being a contrarian, the glasses example is a good example. Like everyone understands it. Like, I don't know if I need it. Some of me, came on Twitter and they said, hey, this is not a good example because glasses at least fix something. And I don't think Redux like there are some people that disagree with it still. So like, I'm just having fun.
Becoming a roast of
No. Hey, Twitter taught me this. I didn't teach this. I'm not saying it. I would never say that. Twitter said that. I would.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. No.
I'm not saying. Just asking the question.
Just because I said it doesn't mean I support it. But
now hold on a second. What about the scenario where I'm building the next Facebook? In that case, right? I need it right off.
Yeah.
I need it right off the bat, right? I'm building the next Facebook. I don't know if you knew this.
You need it.
You should. You probably should implement. You know what you said before, that state, it used to be about variables, putting values inside of variables, and now it became just like this word, complicated word. There's another aspect that people don't talk about a lot, I feel, when talking about state, is caching. That's a topic, right? That is very, very hard, close to talking about state, because if you think about the stores in NgRx, it's a cache layer, okay, that you could use, and then you have other questions. Do I need a cache layer, okay, in that scenario? Do I need it anyway, or do I need always the fresh data from the server and all that question? That people don't talk about that enough, I feel, but that's a topic for maybe a different episode.
Yeah, I think that cache is something that is helpful in some scenarios, and it makes other apps worse, because cache means you're trying to keep data around for more than temporary purposes, and you can end up with a lot of stale data unintentionally. And so if you're going to cache, you have to have an effective caching strategy. Otherwise, probably with some sort of server push notifications telling you update the cache. Otherwise, you're going to have stale data and stuff. So I think a lot of people look at NgRx erroneously, and NgRx wasn't built to be a client-side database. It's not meant to get the data, put it in there, and then never ask for it again. It's only meant to be a place where you can concurrently serve the same piece of data to multiple people without worrying if they have different copies. But it's not necessarily meant to be a cache. So I think caching is a completely different topic, separate of NgRx, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think you could solve caching with NgRx. I think you could put it into the store, but every app is so different. Every need for caching, if you were selling donuts, your cache is so much different than if you're selling stock options, right? Or real-time brokering. Because
what does it even mean, Aaron?
Well, donuts are static. They're not going to change, right? So your cache, the donut,
Shai, you've never had a donut?
I ate one and then it changed.
And I'm going to asking why.
Anyway, okay. Forget about the cache. Okay, that's a different topic, a different episode. I see people, you could cache it with this plugin, and then it becomes because it's sort of a repository. You have one giant object that is the store, which has lots of properties on it, which is a giant big store, which is an anti-pattern if you think about it, okay? A large object holding all the state. Where is the single responsibility?
It's even more of an anti-pattern if you realize that it keeps a copy to every old version of the data as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag Redux Dev Tools. Hashtag time travel.
So, okay, but there are good things that we could take from it. And that's what I wanted to investigate in this episode.
When you say it, what do you mean it?
NgRx, like the pattern, the functional aspects, the functional aspects. Let's say, okay, here's one benefit that I see to functional way overwriting, okay? Testing, okay? If you have a functional, a service, or let's say you have a pure functions, it's much easier to test it than if you have a state mutating kind of thing. It's not that is not possible to test, but pure functions are super easy to test and to understand. So that's one direction that using a pattern like NgRx maybe drive you in the reducers to make them pure function, and they're easier to test. That's one benefit that I see to the function. That's why I wanted to investigate. That's why I asked these questions, to get a better understanding. What are the benefits? Maybe if I'm not using NgRx, I could still take these benefits into my project, right? So do you see any other benefits like these that our listeners could take to their project?
NgRx has a ton of good things. it has memoized pipes streams, right? Like, so your streams are memoized, meaning it's not going to fire more than necessary. So there's an insane amount. Like when you turn on the push on push for change detection strategy in an Angular component with memoized streams, that's pretty performant, and there's no real way to deny that. And so there's a lot of really good things that it teaches you. It teaches you, like, if you use the facade pattern that Thomas Burleson talks about with NgRx, you end up with a really nice API around your store. And teaching people how to write APIs around their data access layer is really valuable. Like, so it actually teaches you a lot of insanely good patterns. And when you know you need it, it's like the most effective way to have highly concurrent, highly shared data. Like, I can't think more easy to trace way of coding that up on highly concurrent data. So one of those examples in there, was that an example of how having to deal with the complexity it adds teaches you good things? Was that the facade pattern? That's like, I'm dealing with the complexity. I'm working in spite of it. That seemed like that was one of your examples there, right? Like, no, I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is not untrue, but that's not why I was saying it. Like, because you can write NgRx in a way where you've broken the law of Demeter and now your component knows too much about the store, right? And like, that's crazy. Or maybe you take the selector back into your component and then you start making immutable streams in your component, when really that should be up inside of a service so that other people can reuse the same logic. You know what I'm saying? And so,
right. Hey, this is a pretty advanced episode, but still it might be good to do a quick definition of law of Demeter, since you name dropped it.
It's just trying to draw fences around, like, pieces of logic and keep them reasonable in themselves, so that you don't have one thing that knows too much about its environment, or a component knows too much about the store.
A good example for it, if when you find yourself calling an object like a service, get this other service, if it has a method that gets you another object, and then you use and call a method on that other object, this is breaking the law of Demeter, because you should have just like a function that does something and don't get you another object. You should inject this object if you need it.
Yeah. Lucas, and actually I learned this from Lucas and Lucas Rubelkey, everyone knows. I mean, and he's great. And so it's really important. I think there's a ton of good stuff that, even if you're like, I don't need NgRx, there's still a lot of patterns from it you should be following. And I'll stand on that hill.
I think that, there are a lot of good things about NgRx, about using NgRx in your project. For me, one of them is that if you're working in kind of big teams, it's going to be very used to introduce new members, because when there is a lot of documentation, there is a lot of good examples on the internet. Once you have learned how NgRx works, to use NgRx, it's pretty easy. Maybe you have to write this boilerplate that it's not boilerplate actually, but boilerplate, okay? And the thing is that when you have learned that, it is very easy to call a service, and you know exactly how the data flows, this is every time that you heard about Redux, you say, what the hell they mean when they say how the data flows? And you say, that sounds like a bullshit, right? So the thing is, it's that it's not, because you know that when you call an action from your view, that action is going to, it's going to be captured or get from on the effect, and then on the effect you will call to a service. That service will do some process or whatever and return a value to the effect, and the effect will return a new action, so you can do this interaction with your view. So the good thing about that is it's because the flow is so clear. So you call the action, it goes to the effect, from the effect to the service, from the service to the effect back, and from the effect it goes back to the UI. because that flow is so easy to understand when you have done it like a few times, because it is easy when you have worked with that for a while. It's easy to put some stuff in the middle. So, for example, what we do is we are using a thing called Decoders, and these Decoders, it's a library that we created, which what it's doing is that when we do a call to the API, we use these Decoders to decode the response from the server, and if the response from the server is what we expect, then we return a success. Otherwise, we return a failure. Why we are doing that? Because sometimes there are bugs introduced in the API that can crash the UI, and with those decoders, we can prevent that. And that kind of things are very easy to understand if you are following that architecture. And patterns are good because force you to do the things in one way. So there is not going to be a matter of choice of this developer or this other developer. You are going to do this in that way because it's how you should do that, because it's the proper way. And that's it. So it's going to be easy to understand for everybody. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable using patterns and libraries and that kind of things.
All right, we're late in the show. So Raul, if anyone wants to reach out to you, has any questions for you, where can they find you on Twitter?
On Elcash, which is ELECASH on Twitter, with the same user that will follow me on GitHub too, and probably other networks.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for letting us barrage you with questions and for helping us dive into functional programming with NgRx and with RxJS. It's appreciated.
This episode is brought to you by TripleByte. Applying to programming jobs sucks. You have to put the right keywords in your resume, you spend hours and hours on the phone screens and take-home projects, and that's assuming the company even responds to your application. Well, if you're a software engineer, TripleByte can help. They work with over 400 top tech companies, from big names like Dropbox and Adobe to exciting startups. You do one brief online interview with them, and if you do well, you go straight to final interviews with the company on their platform. It's like the Common App for software developers. TripleByte does not look at your resume or where you went to school. All they care about is if you can code. I've helped dozens of software developers with various credentials get jobs, and this looks like a terrific way for you to get in and get interviewed and get a job without a lot of the hassle and overhead. You can go check them out at triplebyte.com/angular. That's triplebyte.com, byte as in 8 bits. As a special offer for listeners of this show, if you take a job through TripleByte, they'll offer you a $1,000 signing bonus.
Let's go. Let's move into picks. Does anyone want to start the pick section?
Yeah, I want to recommend, I tweeted about it today, an awesome talk by Steve Freeman, who is one of the GOOS, the Growing Object-Oriented Software Guided by Test book, which gave a lecture 2 years ago about TDD and how we meant it to be. So that's that I will put the link, and that's it for me today.
Perfect. Joe, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to pick TypeScript. I like TypeScript. Yeah, TypeScript's pretty cool. I started playing around with a few things, and I was looking at some computer science stuff, and I don't know if any of you knew this. Anybody who knows this, I'll buy you a swig. Did you know that TypeScript supports tuples?
Yep.
You did? You get a swig? No, they're tuples. It's also GIF.
It's not tuples?
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
That's what the GIF people say, Joe. That's what the GIF people say.
That's what the GIF
tuples
people
of
GIF. It's pronounced GIF. Anyway, TypeScript supports them, tuple tuples. And I did not know that until I was looking around in the corner. Anyway, so TypeScript is actually pretty cool. What I like about it is it's fairly easy to learn on top of JavaScript, and there's really not that much you need to learn to be pretty good at it. So I actually did throw together a quick little video lesson on 5 essential lessons for TypeScript competence. So if you Google that, 5 essential lessons for TypeScript competence, you'll find it. I put it up over on Thinkster, but it's free to the public.
TypeScript. All right. I'm going to take a pick here. I'm going to have 2 picks today, okay? The first pick is the company I'm working with, Hero Devs, is launching a new conference. It's called RxJS Live. It's going to be in Vegas on September 5th and 6th. The CFP is opening tonight. All RxJS conference. If you want to go check it out, it's rxjs.live. And you can go on Twitter, RxJS Live, the Twitter account. Do a follow there to follow for announcements for the CFP, for tickets. Tickets go on sale by the time this happens. The CFP and the tickets will already be on sale by the time this podcast goes out. So anyway, if you're out there saying, hey, I need to get better at this RX stuff. I need to understand streams and observables and these patterns. And
Dude, that's just like the whole world.
Yeah, I know. But if you want to come, it's a first-year conference. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of Podwazaki, Ben Lesh people there that they're going to teach us, and we're going to spend a couple of days of community learning. So that's my first pick is RxJS Live. Second pick, a book called The Go-Giver. I read it, and I had a moment where it added some clarity. And I read a small book like this about a decade ago that changed me. And as I was reading The Go-Giver, I could tell this was going to change the way I approached a lot of things. And as I read it, I started thinking about some people that a lot of you guys will know. Like, I started thinking about Joe Eames. I started thinking about Jesse Sanders. I started thinking about Jorge Cano. And just people that give really endlessly. And like, I'm amazed at how their giving makes me want to be a soldier for them. And this book was like, hey, when you give, people are on your team now. And they love you, and they're looking out for you. And so it's called The Go-Giver. It helps you put some terms around all the giving that you do. Certainly Hi-Rez gives a lot to the community. Hi-Rez would be part of this giver category. So I wanted to just put it out there for people about giving and how to kind of grow as an influencer. It's called The Go-Giver, and you can check it out on Audible. It's only about 3 hours. So those are my 2 picks this week.
By the way, you're one of my inspirations, Frosty, for giving. From seeing the behind the scenes of NgConf and how much you put an effort to give back to the attendees. So just know that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Raul, you want to take a chance at some picks?
Yeah, obviously. I use this thing called QuickType.io. I don't know if you know it. This is a great tool where you can transform your JSON files to interfaces and so on. It is very, very useful. I'm using it a lot, and I like it a lot. And the other thing that I would like to, it's my friends at AiA. They are great. I don't know if you know about AiA, but AiA is the best grid in the world, and I love the guys behind it because they are very, 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 very nice people.
AiA. I can second that.
And that's it. I think that those are the 2 very good links.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you want to reach out to us, go follow us on Twitter, Angular Podcast, and we will be tweeting some new announcements from there going forward. So thank you, and we'll catch you all next time.
Thank you, Raul.
Thank you, everybody.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by Cachefly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with Cachefly. Visit cachefly.com to learn more.